What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your show host over here. Thanks for listening. This week, we have Dylan Carlson from Trophy Edits as our guest on the show. If you guys have been listening to previous week's podcast, you have probably heard me talk about Trophy Edits in the little sponsor promotion segment at the beginning. I invited Dylan to come on the show to talk about what they're doing over there at Trophy Edits, what digital taxidermy is, what it means to have your photo professionally edited to memorialize that moment and everything, which is what Trophy Edits does. I'm not going to ramble on for a long time about it here in the intro segment because we have Dylan on the show and he does a much better job of explaining everything that they do over there at Trophy Edits than I do. So hope you guys enjoy this podcast. We also talk about just some general hunt talk. We get the business out of the way, talking about the brand and the growth and the journey into all that, and then we actually get to talk about a pretty awesome elk hunt that he had, as well as some other hunt talk and everything. So it's a great podcast, great time hanging out with Dylan. I hope you guys listening to this feel like you are here hanging out with us because he's a super cool, chill, and laid back dude. So go check out Trophy Edits. I'll refrain from mentioning the ad here in a moment because this whole episode's about them, but they do have a discount code for you guys, and that's Fall Obsession, all one word, lowercase, if you want to place an order with them. And then towards the end of this episode, Dylan also gives you guys a little social media discount code where if you go to any of their posts on Instagram or Facebook and you comment a certain thing, you'll get another little deal. So you got to listen to the podcast to find that one. But go check out Trophy Edits and everything they got going on over there. And I hope y'all enjoy this episode. Hoot Camo is also a Fall Obsession partner. I've been wearing Hoot gear for a couple seasons now. I love the patterns. I love the gear. They are just extremely well made. The patterns are versatile. They adapt to different environments. The gear holds up well against the elements. Just can't say enough about my Hoot gear. Go to hootcamo.com, place an order, and you can use the code FallObsession15 at checkout. Doesn't matter how big or small that order is. Doesn't matter if you're buying a full set of camouflage or just purchasing a hat, a shirt, some of their lifestyle wear, whatever they got on there. Use that code. It'll save you some money. Hootcamo.com. Bear River Archery is the official archery pro shop and range of the Fall Obsession team here in North Texas. We love working with Justin over there and everything he's got going on at Bear River. So if you are local to North Texas and you want somebody that is going to treat you right and do good work on your archery equipment, set you up for success, you need to go over to Bear River Archery in Van Alstyne, Texas, and let Justin know that Fall Obsession sent you. The Outdoor Call radio app is also a podcast partner. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You will hear our show, Fall Obsession Podcast, playing on that loop on Mondays, 3 or 4 times, I think, throughout the day. That's the same day as our new publications, as well as tons of other hunting shows and podcasts that we all know and love. Go download the Outdoor Call radio app today. It's free and you can start streaming immediately. And be sure that you follow their Facebook page because Outdoors Dan does a couple of different live radio shows throughout the week. And even if you're not local to those radio stations, you can catch those broadcasts on the Facebook Live. It's the Outdoor Call radio app and Outdoors Dan. Go download it today. I also want to tell you guys about our 2025 turkey hunt competition. Registration is open. You guys can hunt from anywhere in the United States, your normal state, your normal hunting ground. All you have to do is document some specific statistics when you kill your bird, and then you can register it and sign it up for the competition. You can win money, you can win gift cards, you can win hunting gear, you can win a hunt. We have all sorts of awesome stuff and awesome opportunities that are coupled with this turkey hunt competition. And again, all you have to do is hunt like you normally do. You don't have to travel. You don't have to pay for a non-resident license. None of that. All you're doing is turkey hunting like we all know and love to do every single year. And you have a chance to win some awesome stuff at Fall Obsession. Go to fallobsession.com/hunt-competition to learn more about our 2025 turkey hunt competition and the 2025 turkey hunt sweepstakes. Thank you guys again for listening to this podcast. Whatever platform you are streaming on, please make sure that you hit that follow or subscribe button, whatever they have up there for you. Turn notifications on if that's an option. That way you guys know every week when we drop a new podcast. If you like watching the podcast videos, those go to our YouTube channel every single Thursday. audio versions on all the platforms on Monday, video versions on the YouTube on Thursday. Head on over to that YouTube channel because we have some awesome stuff that has already released and or is coming down the pipe, namely our new film, The Steep and Deep, Idaho Elk 2024. You guys don't want to miss that. It's an awesome production and a trip that means a lot to me personally. And I'm very, very stoked that we got to be able to document it and have it saved forever in that form. So, guys, go check out that film and subscribe to the YouTube. That way, you know when the future videos and podcasts are hitting the channel. We got some awesome films that are still yet to come out. We have a sandhill crane hunt that I'm editing right now. We have a Sitka deer hunt that I'm editing right now. We got a New York deer hunt that is coming after that. A lot of great films that are going to be on that YouTube channel. So be sure that you guys check that out. Follow us on all the major social media platforms. We post daily, sometimes multiple times a day, with regular updates from the field from our staff, as in addition to our normal content creation efforts. And you guys make sure that you are streaming our shows on Carbon TV. If you haven't heard of Carbon TV, it's like Netflix for hunting, basically, except it's free. And you guys can find 4 different Fall Obsession hunting shows on that platform. This podcast, our staff-inspired video podcast series called Couch Chats, as well as our 2 different hunting shows, Texas Dirt and Midwest Mindset. Those are all streaming on Carbon TV. Fallobsession.com is the website. That's where all of our content filters through. You guys can head on over there, explore around, see everything that we offer, as well as pick up a hat or a shirt if you're so inclined. And again, sign up for that turkey hunt competition. And we appreciate you guys supporting Fall Obsession. With that, I'm turning it over to the episode. We're going to get Dylan in here and talk about trophy edits and everything they got going on over there. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. I'm Sam hosting you guys, and this week I have Dylan Carlson from Trophy Edits joining us on the podcast. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me, Sam.
Man, it's always good to sit down with new faces on the podcast. I know you and I have been talking and for several months now, various meetings and that kind of stuff as we've developed our partnership and everything. But yeah, it's always cool to have a new person on the show.
Yeah, I'll say I'm happy to be here. And, honestly, now that you say that, I didn't even realize, I think it's been about almost a year. I think we're coming up to about a year because we met at the TTHA show last August, I believe. So we're getting there.
Yeah, we're coming up on there. And that's also kind of a unique thing too, because a majority of the folks that I record with on here, I've never actually met in person. Obviously, a majority of our discussions have been virtual, but I record with a lot of guests that I meet virtually and that I never really get to interact with in person at any point in time. So it's kind of cool to have that backstory as well.
I'll say I like being the taste breaker then, and the idea of we met in person first and then we went virtual.
Yeah, normally if anything, it's the other way around. If anything, I have somebody on the show virtually, and then eventually I get to finally meet them in person. Normally it's the other way around, but.
Oh, see, I didn't know that was an option. If you would have told me that a year ago, I would have chose that one.
Let me get to know this guy a little bit first.
Yeah, it's like let's keep our distance for a little while, then we can kind of come in together. But I think it works out. I'm happy how it is.
Absolutely, man. Well, for people who have listened to our show for several episodes past few months, they have probably heard at one point or more me talking about you guys, the Trophy Edits team, what you guys do over there in our little ad spot at the beginning of every episode. But for those who are tuning in for the first time, for anybody coming from your side of the fence, for anybody that just wants to know more, what is Trophy Edits?
See, now I feel the pressure here in the idea of I've been listening to you read off what we do for the past couple of weeks, and I'm like, oh, he's nailed it. So for me to be now in this position,
if it makes you feel any better, I feel like I am stumbling through every
Oh
single
no.
week. And if our listeners only knew how much I have to edit out sometimes on my own, tripping over my own words. Sometimes that happens too. I had an episode, man, I don't know when it was. It was several weeks ago. I like recorded late at night, and so I normally do the intro segments. I record those after I've recorded with the guest. And I couldn't put two words together to save my life. It took me like 30 minutes to do this little 6 minute blip. I was
Oh
just
no.
stumbling so much. So if that helps take the pressure off, I am no professional by any
Now the
means.
pressure is gone. The pressure was on. Now I feel a weight has truly been lifted off me. So let me do it in one take. Perfect. I mean, it is my company. I should know. Uh, so what at Trophy Edits, what we do is we work primarily with hunters, and we utilize the photos that they get after their trophy hunts. So these are usually safaris or hunts of a lifetime, or maybe those really special and unique hunts, like maybe a father-son hunt. We utilize the photos that they get from their outfitters or that they take themselves. We then professionally edit them and print them on canvas, acrylic, and metal. Let's say what kind of makes trophy edits different from traditional taxidermy is we here always say that traditional taxidermy really celebrates the animal. You know, I'll be the first person to say traditional taxidermy is awesome. Make sure you get it. Support your local taxidermist. Obviously, for the radio listeners, you can't see I have an elk head just behind me.
I was gonna say you got a pretty cool euro on the wall back there.
Yeah, but what Trophy Edits does is that we enhance and we memorialize the experience and the memory. You know,
Mhm.
it may not be the biggest, or it could be, but it's the that memory of that hunt that you really want to immortalize and put on your wall.
Yeah.
I don't have it here, but one of the first ones that Sam you saw in our booth was of actually that elk, but it was an elk hunt with me and my father. Now, Sam was pretty nice with his descriptor. My elk is actually pretty small. I think it's only a 4x4. So she's not the biggest, but we're two guys from Pennsylvania who's never went out elk hunting. It was an amazing trip out in New Mexico. And with that, I wanted to immortalize more than just the animal. I wanted to immortalize me and my father going out, getting this animal, this whole new experience in a whole different terrain.
Yeah. So that specific event that you're talking about right now with you and your father, is that was Trophy Edits already a thing, or was that an event that kind of led you to start this?
Yeah, so actually that was a prequel hunt. So uh I actually led what led me to start Trophy Edits was in the same way hunting with my father. Me and my dad usually go out on a bigger hunt, an outfit hunt like every other year. But what it is we usually go whitetail hunting. Well, so Trophy Edits is about a year old, and about a year and a half to 2 years ago, we went out for our first ever whitetail in Texas. Being from Pennsylvania, we've only ever done free range, and we've gone up to Canada where they bait, but it's still free range. So my dad said while I was living in Texas, he's like, I've always wanted to actually go to a high fence and get just a really beautiful high fence deer. And I'm like, okay, so let's look around. We shopped around for a few months and we eventually booked a hunt, and it was an absolute fantastic hunt. The outfit was great, the food was amazing, and the deer were just massive.
Mhm.
Coming from a free range guy, seeing all of these huge, amazing genetics, it literally blew me away.
Oh yeah.
But from that, on the first day, I shot my deer safari style. So with that, we're in a side by side. We're going around and we're chasing down looking for this deer. And it's kind of at sunset. It's getting darker and darker. By the time we finally found the deer in my price range, size category, we find it, we pop it, and whenever we get down to it, it's already extremely dark. So with that, we were all happy because I love how the deer looks. But the guide went over as every guide does. He pulled out his cell phone and started taking a few pictures of me and had a few pictures with my dad. That was awesome. So fast forward a couple weeks later, I'm sitting behind my desk. I'm sending my pictures out to every single hunter I know. Hey, check this out. I just got my first ever crazy huge Texas deer. For my area, if you get like a 10 point, you're the man. So me with like a 16 to 18 point, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of a big deal. But
Humble brag.
but with that, I'm sending it out and I'm getting some messages back, and they're like, I can barely see it because it was so dark. I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, we had to use the side by side lights to lighten up. You can barely see what's going on. There's the usual picture of just me behind it and me and my dad. And I'm sitting there after I'm getting a few responses, everyone being like, I can't see. I'm like, well, fine, I'll brighten it up myself. And this is one of those really dumb moments that's like I should have thought of this earlier, because my background is I used to professionally edit photos for Disney travel packages. My former company, we would sell Disney travel packages as well as other travel packages. So I was in charge of editing those pictures in post as well as marketing them. So I have a very big photography and especially post photography editing background. So I went in there, took it into Photoshop, took it into Lightroom, gussied it up a bit, and I sent it out. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's a killer looking animal." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." And yeah, then I sat on that idea for about 3 months, and then it finally dawned on me later. Oh my gosh, I know hundreds of other hunters that have been in that exact same situation.
Mhm.
Whether it be it's too dark out, or oh, we were so tired we forgot to move the four-wheeler. There's gear in there, there's tongues hanging out of the mouths or blood. It's just applying those same skills to the hunting industry and really targeting that part of hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's cool. I know that like going to your website and looking at just some of the examples you have, right? The contrast of the before and afters and everything that's on there. Um, it's incredible the difference that's there. Like
Mm.
you look at some of the befores and I look at that from the perspective of, man, that's not a bad picture to start with, but then
Yeah.
y'all make it just even more explosive. I would This is the best way I have to put it. And
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
yeah, I guess where I'm going with that, and for anybody listening that might be thinking about that, because we all probably, listening to you talk about, we all probably have an experience similar to yours or a picture in our mind that we wish was something more than it was. Um, so what I guess what I'm going to ask is, what do you have in a photo already to make it work? Like where's
Yeah.
that line between, man, I can't do anything with this, or man, yeah, let me create you a masterpiece.
Yeah, I'll say there is definitely a line, and there are some that, we've had to send back because of that. So really, the number one line is photo size.
Mhm.
So I actually showed you, and speaking of that elk print that I had, I actually blew that up to a 30 by 40-inch picture. It's absolutely massive. But with that was taken on a older phone. I think it was taken on like a 2017. It was taken in 2017,
Mhm.
probably like 2 years earlier. That was my iPhone. But the biggest thing is photo size. And the reason I bring up the age of my phone back then is current and modern phones, they take pictures at a perfect enough level that, it's big enough that we can really get in there and work our magic on those little things. So with that, it would be photo size would be number one. After that, going in is lighting. So I gave the obvious example of mine was at night, but darkness is one of the hardest things to edit out. If it is just unfortunately too dark, it it can't be saved. It can be enhanced a bit, but not enough to probably want on your wall. So those would be those two places of where we usually draw our line. But with photo editing, everything is so custom. Every single job is unique. What we always encourage people is if you're not sure, send it to us. We have our email on our website, or you can place the order and send it to us that way. Either way, But if we cannot get it to a point at which A, we're happy with, or B, you're happy with, we fully refund it. So if you're on that line where it's like, I have one from a few years ago, or oh, I scanned in my grandfather's old hunt, just shoot it over to us and we'll let you know if we can help.
Gotcha. That was going to be another question, was like those old those old photos that, are run around in people's hunting memories. They might not even have a mount left over from a hunt, and hindsight's 2020. You're like, man, I should have gotten that deer. Should have gotten that deer mounted, that way I have a way to remember that hunt with dad or whoever it was. And yeah, all they have is a photo to go off of. So they can scan them in and send them over, at
Yep.
least for y'all to
I'll
look
say
at, I guess.
Yeah, I'll say you can feel free to scan them and email it over us. Email is always the best way to send photos. However, we have been in talks with some people, especially usually in our more local area, where they will drop off physical pictures. And actually, at my last show in Texas, not the one that we met at, but the January show for TTHA,
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a gentleman that he had a canvas that he wanted redone. He bought this canvas of his wife from when she was in high school. It was about probably 30, 40 years old and had been ripping and fading over the years. And he's like, it's like, I don't know how I can get you this photo to restore. And with that, we ended up working out where he ended up taking a picture of the canvas and we edited the picture of the canvas.
Interesting.
So, yeah, if there's a photo that really means a lot to you, we will go above and beyond to really make that photo work because, who would have thought that the photo company loves photos? But yeah, every photo, it means a lot, and we want to make sure that specific memory is what goes on your wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my next question, just on the trophy edits topic and talking about what you guys do and how you do it and all that kind of stuff, is, I mean, especially you talked about, using an iPhone from 2015, 2017 era, right? These iPhones they have now, these are impressive, right? So
Oh yeah.
what's your pitch, I guess, to somebody who is listening, like, man, yeah, but Instagram's got some great filters. Why can't I just use those?
Oh, I get that more often than you think. I get a lot of people that are, for lack of better words, I don't want to say fake errors because any editing is editing.
Mhm.
And the big thing is it's what level of detail you're looking for. That's really the question.
Mhm.
So Instagram does have a lot of great filters, so does Facebook, Snapchat, whatever, and it gives you a lot of tools to play with it. Actually, a lot of phones actually have built-in photo editing, which is kind of neat. And then if you go into especially the Google Pixels, they're starting to play with object removal and stuff like that, which is that next step. But the thing that I kind of push back against that is you're not only paying for our experience as well as our editing whenever you work with us, but you're also paying for our materials because there's really two sides to the business. There is the photo editing where you take your softwares of choice and work on that photo, but then afterwards, where are you going to get this printed at? For most people, that's printing at places like Walmart, Staples, stuff like that, where the materials, they're fine, but you're not going to get as much as a professional printing company like ours, where our canvases, we go to 1.75-inch gallery wrap. So it makes them really nice and thick, as well as our metals are on really nice gauged aluminum, and our acrylics are out of the world, out of this world. I can't make them. That's why we have the people to help us. But just seeing that acrylic plate pressed on that photo, it brings it together because anyone can just go out and print something out on a piece of paper from their printer, but it's the materials that we use that they also give us that extra edge in addition to our years of experience as professional editors.
Yeah. And like you've emphasized too, you're trying to capture a moment or a memory that is going to is meant to last forever, like antlers on the wall, right? So that's the other side of it, where you you want something that has that quality to stand behind. So
Yeah, I mean, in the same way as, I wouldn't recommend going to the cheapest taxidermist. It's
yeah,
that same
no,
it's that
nobody's
same
doing
methodology.
that.
If you want to have a deer with googly eyes on your wall, you can go down to Jimmy that will do it for $50. Or, if you want a true piece of art that, memorializes the moment or the animal, you go to a professional. And that's where we are.
Absolutely. I love it, man. In this era of current technology, I mean, some folks are walking around and in deer camp or whatever with a decent camera, but majority of hunters out there, right? They just have one of these in their pockets.
Yes, sir.
In your and I'm holding my phone up. I'm obviously an iPhone guy here, but so I'll take all bias out of it for just a second and get off my iPhone high horse. But
Hmm.
what is in your opinion, the photos that you see coming in and everything, is there a phone that has a camera on it that's better than another one if somebody is trying to get the best bang for their buck in the photo world just with a cell phone?
Yeah, so it really depends on what kind of photography you're doing with it. So if we're just talking about hunting photos, and I recommend an iPhone because they're very easy to use and they have a lot of really beginner friendly features, as well as the most important thing for a lot of people is I want to post this online. And iPhone photos look the best for Instagram, Facebook, social media in general, because that's what the iPhone is made to do. It is made to take that photo and put it directly on there. Now, if you're asking about, the best photo for example, us to work with, that's usually probably like a Google Pixel or even Samsung. They usually have bigger and more advanced cameras than iPhones. But a lot of people don't know that whenever you message to an iPhone, it compresses to the iPhone rates, and that's why photos from those other phones always look bad on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Or whenever they upload to social media, there's resolution, for lack of better words, there's resolution limits and stuff like that. So they're trying to upload at a higher level than the iPhone. So it always looks bad versus the iPhone photos are made for those platforms. So if you're looking to print, I would definitely go with either Google Pixel or Samsung versus the iPhone. But if you're looking for, obviously an all around experience to share, the iPhone can't be beat.
That's good information too. And yeah, we got a group text at the firehouse with the crew, obviously, and we make
Mhm.
fun of the one guy that doesn't have an iPhone because he makes our text bubbles a different color.
Yeah.
So
iPhone does a really good job of, just shaming non-iPhone users, which, it's funny because I have an iPhone. I'm gesturing with my hand, of course, as well. But I have an iPhone just because I'm a business owner and I post on social media. I've been an Android guy all of my life. I love the Samsung Galaxy series. But as a business owner, I need to post on social media. And with that, it's just a lot easier to take the picture on the iPhone and then edit on the iPhone, edit it with, my apps, and then post it.
yeah.
So don't be too mean to that guy at the firehouse. I don't know what your name is, sir, but stay strong. You have a better camera. Trust me. It's hard to show.
If he ever gets to this point in this podcast episode, he's gonna have a head this big now.
I hope he
Hearing,
does.
hearing you talk about his cell phone. No, I actually had an Android as well a long time ago. It was probably also that, 2015, 17 era back in that time. That's about the last time I had one before I switched. And I switched actually because it just for as much as I was doing with the phone, not just for the media side,
Mhm.
with hunting and that kind of stuff, but then also as phones have gotten better, as the cameras have gotten more impressive, I should say, especially on these pro models, I've filmed more stuff with my iPhone that's just a real quick pull your phone out and
Yeah.
snag it real quick, right? And so from an editing standpoint, I went all my computers and the stuff that I use to edit now is Apple products, and so it was very very compatible. So
This week's episode of Fall Obsession brought to you by Apple.
I know. I said in an episode a few weeks ago that there's no free ads. So
Yeah,
Apple's getting one. I'm gonna have to send them a bill.
they're getting a couple, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really depends on, what you're using your phone for is always what works for the individual. As it relates to us, we always love seeing those other photos, but honestly, what Apple did great is they made it easy to use for old and young generations. So we get a lot of Apple pictures, which at the end of the day, they're great looking photos. Same with other phones. So whether you have Apple, Samsung, Google, or if you're like my wife, she has some random Chinese brand of phone. I have no idea what it is. She always just goes and looks up like the cheapest one for the next couple of years. And she's hardened to the numbers about phones. That is her like thing that she knows the processing speed and everything like that. And she's like,
Oh
"Oh, I
wow.
have the best phone." I'm like, "Yeah, but our group chats look horrible
But
because
the
of your
group chat.
non-Apple bubble."
Oh
But
man.
whatever works for you works for us.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk a little bit of hunting too about with you and about your experiences and everything because and I guess since you've already alluded to it a little bit with the mount on your wall behind you and you've talked about being up there in Pennsylvania, everything getting to go on an elk hunt. Tell me about that elk hunt. Where were you guys at and how it all go
Yeah.
down?
Yeah, that elk hunt, so we were actually out of New Mexico whenever we went on that, and it was either our first time going, and with that, that was my first and actually to date only spot and stock, which, out here in PA, you don't spot and stock.
Yeah.
You can't go up and look around just because of all of our foliage, all of our trees, and you're usually just in a tree stand waiting for a deer, which is fine. There's a lot of comfort and relaxation in that, but also it doesn't get your blood pumping like spot and stock does.
Right.
So me and my dad and a couple of his buddies all went out, and my dad is a diabetic, which will come in a little later in the story.
Oh.
But so we're going on these hikes, and which I did not realize. I was not prepared for this hunt in any sort of way. Whenever we were talking to them, they're like, "Yeah, we'll do some spot and stock, and then we'll hunt over. We'll hunt at watering holes at night." I'm like, "Okay, I don't get it. That's fine. I'm here. I can handle anything." Well, the guys wake us up at 6, maybe 5, get us out of bed before sun's up, and we're driving. Then we're hiking 2 miles just to get up a mountain, glass around for a few hours, find something, and then try a hike and cut it off, which I never had any experience with. It was absolutely phenomenal. But this entire time, as we're going up the hill, my dad, who's a diabetic, like I mentioned, he has one of those pumps in his arm, or one of the new scanner badges.
Mhm.
So like every 500 yards or something, he's like, "Hold up, hold up, hold up," and putting his phone to his thing, and it'll give a nice little ting or something like that, some auditory cue of his sugar's all right or his sugar's not great. So every so often, we're going, we're to-tinging, we're going, we're to-tinging. We eventually get someplace. We're stopping for fruit snacks, eating, and oh, just seeing the views was absolutely phenomenal. But that was just kind of the beginning of it because, that's just the glassing. Whenever we
Mhm.
eventually actually found someone and heading off those elk, that was next level for me. I want to do another elk hunt really badly just because of the amount of joy and how engaging it was.
Yeah.
And with that, I don't know if I'll ever get the same experiences I got back then because my guide did a trick that I don't know if everyone does. Again, I'm just a dude from Pennsylvania, but absolutely hilarious to me. So we're going down after finding the elk herd that, we found a few bulls and we're trying to cut them off. And we're going down the mountain. And with that, there's a big opening where the herd can see us if they look over. And especially there's a whole bunch of cows dotted around that he's like, "Now look, if these cows make us, they're gonna holler and the herd's just not gonna come our way. It's gonna suck." We're like, "Okay." So what do we do? Do we backtrack, back around? Do we just run as fast as we can? He's like, well, what we're gonna do is we're getting a single file line towards them. I'm like, okay. He's like, and then we're gonna hide behind Miss September. Like, what? And from his backpack, he pulls back and he had one of those, they're like canvas fold, for lack of better words, it was a cardboard cutout, but it was like canvas that like sprung out really
Yeah.
fast. And it was of a female elk just bent over showing the business. And he's like, get behind me. We're gonna cross this field hunched all behind this thing. And me and my dad are looking at each other like, so like this isn't gonna work. This is straight up Wile E. Coyote stuff. Like I don't believe Miss September would work in any sort
Yeah.
of way, shape, or form. We're about 300 yards away from him, so we're far away, but okay, whatever. So we're all hunkered behind him, and we get across this field without getting busted at all. And me and my dad are laughing our asses off at this point because he literally pulled out a cutout that we hid behind. So we keep on going and we're getting up and we eventually get in front of the bulls that we're looking to get to. And he's like, okay, Gary, my dad, Gary, you sit down here. You stay here. Me and Dylan we're gonna go up there. You're gonna get a great view of us, but we're gonna get in there. I'm gonna call them to us and we're going to get ourselves a elk. And we're like, okay. So I go along with him and I'm sitting there with my compound and he's behind me. And I'm like, we're sitting here for a while, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. It doesn't seem like they're actually coming our way. And he's like, okay, boy, we're gonna do this again and we're gonna do it right. Cause he's using a bunch of different calls. But he's like, I'm gonna break out the big guns. And I'm like, okay, what's the big guns? And the September comes folded back out, which okay, they're not anywhere near us, so I don't know how that makes him better at calling, but he just started hitting these notes. It was like being next to an opera singer that I didn't think a human could hit. And that's when not only that guy, but three of his buddies start coming out
No
and
kidding.
trotting up the path. Yeah, so they're coming out, and I'm looking behind him at this dude who's hollering his butt out behind this cutout of an elk bent over, and I'm like, oh my God, what the heck? What am I doing here? And then these giant bulls just start coming out. And the first one came out, he came out of the woods 15 yards away from me. I'm like, oh my God, I've never been that close to an elk before, let alone right after him, his buddies start coming around and they all, I would say the closest one after they kind of came out and we're all staring at her, was mine was about 35 yards. The closest was probably about maybe 25 and the furthest around 45. So they're kind of sprinkled about and they're all just staring at him. And I'll be honest, I got a little hunter shock, and the idea of these animals are absolutely massive. I'm not used to it, and I'm trying to keep myself composed of him doing a little wiggle on her to keep their interest. And I just hear in between a call, shoot him! What the heck are you doing, boy? I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm here for it. I'm sorry. So I reel back, I shoot and I hear that slap. It hits him a little back. I think we end up figuring out it was a liver shot. But what happened next, I've never seen in all my time of hunting because the arrow stuck right in. He jumped and started running. And then my God, he let out another one of those really high pitched bellows. And the almost broke the rule of swearing. All those bulls stopped in their tracks and turned, including the one I shot with the arrow sticking out of his side. And he actually called it back in while shaking Miss September's goods, all for them, and got him back in to about, I think, 40 yards because he wouldn't come all the way back in and got me another shot. And that one I missed. I completely missed on that one.
It's
I
just in
wish I could.
shock.
Yeah, I was in shock. It's in shock. Like
Oh my
I watched
word.
it, but I let loose my next arrow, and that one's what pretty much broke the spell of Miss September. Because after that, everyone bolted out of the way, and we come up talking, and again, just to have a man come up to you completely stone faced, he kind of looked like, to give you a visualization, he kind of looked like Sam Elliott. Uh,
Okay.
like he was a rough and tough guy. You know, I met a lot of hunting outfitters, and this guy was like, that's a cowboy right there. And him just to come up to me with this giant cow, being like, "Good job, good shot." I heard that first one, and it's like, that's amazing. So
Wow.
we eventually ended up tracking it, and he's hanging on the wall now.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I was like, it. The problem is with that, I tell this story to people, and they're like, "What do you mean you're using a cutout to hunt?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm a dude that hangs out in a tree. I don't know what the heck we were doing out there, but it worked, and I got someone on my wall."
Man, so that I didn't believe in it either
Mhm.
until 2019. We went on a Montana pronghorn hunt in 2019. And I went in 2018 and 2019. 2018, I was just straight up blessed. I shot a Pope and Young pronghorn buck over a water
No
hole.
way.
My first
Let's make it
pronghorn
into a
ever.
trophy edit.
I got some pictures I can send you, no joke. I probably should. The but the next year we went back and I had another buddy with me and Drew, our marketing director here at Fall Obsession.
Mhm.
He's hunted out there for several years. So he both years he was kind of the one setting it up and everything. And the second year we were hunting a different piece of land, a huge piece of public out there, and we're bow hunting. And yeah, he was like, first day when we all get there in camp, he's like, yeah, I stopped at Cabela's on the way and I got something.
Mhm.
And he pulled out like a pop-up of a pronghorn buck,
Yeah,
like a young buck. And it was life size, the whole deal, like he was standing sideways.
no way.
And 2 days later, we're driving, because like I'm not kidding, man. It was tens of thousands of acres of this
Mhm.
section of public we had in Montana to
Oh, they
hunt
get
out there.
huge out
It,
there.
it
It's
was
amazing.
not a soul in sight. There wasn't a building, not a car, not a person anywhere to be seen for forever. It was insane. But we're just driving down this dirt two track, and kind of rolling hills and the prairies and stuff on either
Mhm.
side. And we catch a glimpse of these two bucks like the next hill over, and they were like coming down into that little valley and coming toward us. And Drew slams on the brakes. He's like, "Get out now." So we both get up, and my buddy Chester, he was the first one up to shoot because I had
Mhm.
killed one the year before. This was his first hunt.
Yeah.
So I'm filming, and he's like, Drew grabs that thing, that pop up, and we go scurrying up that hill, and we get to the top of the hill closest to us, right as they're coming. They have now come down in the valley, and they're coming up that same hill that we're
Mhm.
like we're gonna converge at the top pretty much.
Yeah.
And like it's in a video, one of our older videos, and now that I'm talking about it on a podcast, I'll have to share it, with this
Yeah.
episode or something. But yeah, we're kind of creeping along and I'm hanging behind him filming a little bit and you just see him. He's like, get down. And we get down real quick and he holds that thing up and I have a video of that buck, the bigger one, or both of them,
Mhm.
but the bigger one was in the back. They're both walking across about 40 yards out and they're both just looking, just slowly walking
No
and
way.
looking like, what's your deal, bro? Just
That
looking
sizing
at
up look
and
just like,
Chester's
who the
drawing back and like huddled behind Drew, and it was insane, man. I was like, there's no way that this works, but it
it,
worked.
it feels so honestly Looney Tunes. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I'm literally behind just a giant piece of I'm behind
Yeah.
a picture with my buddy who has his bow or his weapon behind it. And it's like it almost reminds me of, that skit of three kids in a trench coat.
If if trophy edits could get in, y'all could make some very detailed pop-ups, you know.
That's true.
That might be a future business model for you.
The thing is, I've actually looked into them because after
Yeah.
that hunt, I'm like, oh, this is the way. I saw one company that you can mount them on your bow for
Yep,
like
I've seen those.
whitetail. Yeah, the only problem is in PA, it's not legal, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I saw a few of those. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, why can't we do that? And then my printer's like, because we print pictures, not canvas.
We
And I'm like,
don't because we don't.
crap. Damn it. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Maybe
Because
one
once
day.
they do, I'll tell you right now, Miss September for every animal and Mr. Young Buck for you. I'll send you a few of them.
There you go. Well, we'll have the first two rolling out for a couple different species. It's interesting too, because like down here with my whitetails, I don't think that I would ever be able to pull off anything like that. They're just too skittish. But all
Yeah.
out west, man, it's just it's a different ball game for everything out there. It's crazy.
It's amazing how the different regions really, how the animals act differently. Because in our area, so we have that mix of, we have those extremely skittish deer, except for we have extremely skittish bucks, but our doe, like they have the biggest balls of anyone. Yeah, it's funny. I'll even, position myself slightly wrong and slightly brush a branch, and our bucks will be gone. Like from 6 points and up, God run, life depends on it. But if a doe comes in and I accidentally like sneeze or something, she'll bat her foot down. She'll yell at me for a couple minutes at least. I'm like, who are you? Like, I guess our area's just hunted the bucks way too much that these doe, they're aggressive. We like them.
Yeah.
I like that they're aggressive doe, but I just wish that the Bucks weren't so skittish.
Yeah, that's no joke. Well, they get big for a reason, I guess.
That's
So,
true.
yeah.
Survival of the scaredest.
Maybe that's the key. I wanted to ask you, because I mean, this was your first elk hunt, right? The one that you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
told
that
us
was my
about,
first outfit.
and you were archery hunting.
Yep.
What and I'm asking because I just this last year went on my first elk hunt and I was also archery hunting and the guys were all looking at me like I was insane. But what made you want to go archery for your first one?
Oh, actually, I didn't even really think about archery or rifle. Probably the thing was my dad just got a new crossbow, and in New Mexico, whenever you get to a certain age, you're allowed using crossbow. So I think him just getting his new 10-point crossbow is what really got us in, okay, we're gonna go archery hunting for our first one.
Gotcha.
And back then I didn't, we didn't have any particularly nice rifles. I had a lot of rifles that could do the job,
Mhm.
but whenever we think of Western hunting on the East Coast, we think of, oh, I'm gonna need to be able to make a couple 100-yard shot, which in reality, you definitely don't, but that's what we like to envision. So I'm like, oh, I don't have a rifle for the job. So my dad's like, yeah, we can go archery. I have my new 10 point. I'm like, okay, let's break out the old Hoyt and let's go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, there's
Yeah, I'll
some
say it was killer. And honestly, I just think archery is more fun personally. So
I I love it so much. I'm not telling our returning listeners anything they don't already know. I've been bow only for
mm,
11 years now, and I
I'll
just
say I'm
can't
not
go
even
back.
I'm not the most legacy fan of the show, but I could tell you from listening in the past couple of months, I can tell you, I know for a fact your love of archery just shines through.
Yeah, I can't get away from it, man. I had a on that elk hunt, I had an opportunity to grab one of the other guy's rifles and pop one real quick, and it, I had an opportunity. I didn't really know it at the time. I guess I was so zoned in because we had him crossing and everything. I don't know if you've watched our film, The Steep and Deep, where you can see all this go down, but he's crossing and I'm trying to get the first shot at him because I'm bow hunting. He's about 50 yards
Mhm.
out. And I'm like getting ready to draw back, and Galen, who I went with, he's behind me. And he told me later in camp, he's like, I was trying to get you to pick up my rifle. He said I told you. He was like, hey, you can take him with my rifle right now. And I said, dude, I didn't even hear you say that. It's
Yeah.
like I was
I'll say,
so focused and I wasn't even paying attention to what he was saying.
yeah. I'll say with that, I don't know, there's that extra sense of pride getting it with a bow, making it a little harder, I'll say.
Did
Oh,
your
I love
dad did your dad end up getting one too, or was it just yours?
Yeah, we both ended up getting one. I got mine spot and stock, and I think he got his spot and stock as well. But
Awesome.
with his 10 point, I think he shot it like 75 yards.
Oh
My
wow.
dad's a much better shot than I am. Now, also with a crossbow, that's a little different, but that's
Yeah.
still, I thought it was a real impressive shot. I'm like, wow, because he hit it, it just went straight down.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. Yeah, that's good work with a crossbow. I know I've never I've never owned one. On the contrary, I've probably ragged on them just out
Yeah.
of playful fun more than I haven't. But I know that they do serve a purpose for sure for hunters who don't have another archery option, right? And yeah, my understanding is, most of the time, kind of that 50, 60 yard area is typically kind of where the most you want to stretch out there, at least for deer hunting. So
Yeah.
a 75-yard shot on an elk with one and one shot and you're done. That's impressive. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
I'll say with that, my dad was in the army for about 30 years, so he's always been a very good shot. But right before we went out, we were sitting there dialing in our bows, and he's like, I'm gonna really send it just in case. And boy, am I happy they did. And the idea of he got a few 80-yard shots at the house. Now, obviously, that's under our own conditions. That's not out in the field.
Yeah.
But when the time came, he just sent it, launched it. It was just a done deal.
Yeah.
It was cool. But funny enough, with crossbows, I actually got my start into archery with crossbows.
Yeah.
I actually, for lack of better words, I infected my family with crossbows because whenever whenever I first got, we were all rifle people only, except for, like my dad and my grandpa, whenever they were young, they used to do compound, but they hadn't done it for a long time because as they're getting older, it's just a little harder. So with that, they're rifle only for a very long time. And it wasn't until I was working at Dunham's when I was in college that there was a little tornado. I don't even remember the draw length or anything like that. I just know the brand was Tornado. It wasn't the greatest crossbow. It was on clearance, and I bought it on Black Friday clearance discount with an employee discount matched on top of it. I remember coming home that day and I'm like, wow, look at this. Now I got a crossbow, and that's what got me into archery, which then spurred my family going, oh, we don't need to, be pulling back our little compounds. Let's get into uh crossbows.
Yeah.
So my dad got his, my cousins, my uncles, they went out and got their crossbows. And then after a year or two, that's when I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to take this to that next step. And that's what introduced me to compound. So I always say that I'm still very green when it comes to compound, like extremely green.
Well,
But
you,
I
you
kind
get
of like it as that nice transitionary step too, if that's how somebody would want to do it.
yeah. Well, you got the job done on an elk too, though.
Yeah.
There's plenty of guys that would say that's not necessarily green, but
Well, that's just because they don't know me. That's because you're just, teeing me up for these grand slams. If they knew me and they saw me practicing, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that guy doesn't know what he's
yeah,
doing."
don't take this guy with you.
Like, "Oh, you haven't waxed your bowstring in 5 years, and you want to go out with that?"
Man, that's so funny because I'm very picky about my equipment, right? And
Hmm.
I before I was a firefighter, 10, 12 years ago, I worked in an archery shop. I was a bow tech. And
Oh, okay.
so
So
so I
that's kind of what started this whole.
yeah, that's where I got into it was archery because my dad, he archery hunted like way back in the day. He had one of the very first compound bows that Hoyt ever came out with.
Oh,
An
wow.
archery hunter for like 1 year and then just wasn't his thing, put it in the closet and went just with rifle. But
Hmm.
so when I was a kid, he broke out that old Hoyt and was like, "Here, I'm not using this thing anymore. You can try it." And in hindsight, it was completely the wrong bow for me. It wasn't built for me at all. And but it spurred my interest. And then I went to work at a bow shop and then I got a bow that was right for me. And at the time for a while I did both. I rifle hunted and bow hunted. And then eventually yeah, I've told the story on here before, but I in 2013 I had one hunt in particular that led me to just after that being bow only. So
Oh, okay.
hadn't looked back. So
You can't go wrong with that. Honestly, it's just whatever gets people out in the woods,
yeah.
that's what works. And the idea of, there's just so much value just going out, enjoying yourself, being around just nature, getting away from technology and having fun. And then usually you also get some cheaper meat, which is always great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll say I know with me, I always start the season. Like I trophy hunt, looking for like a buck with my bow in the beginning of the season, and then rifle, I'm just looking for it to fill my freezer.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of guys that I know that have a similar routine to that, or what, no matter what weapon they use, trying to fill that buck tag early, and then after that, just focus on the freezer fillers. So
Yep.
I
Yeah.
I've struggled so much in recent years that I'm just looking to fill tags, period. So
Oh no. Well, hey, we're gonna have to bring Fall Obsession out here sometime then. I'll
yeah,
say have
man.
the guys come out with the video cameras. You guys can hunt our land. Hopefully you'll have better luck than us. But at the very least, we have our aggressive doe that you can usually get some freezer fillers in.
I can see the film right now, PA aggressive doe hunting.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's
great.
funny. One of our guys here, he was hunting at my house, and he was looking for his buck because he does the same routine I do. We kind of hunt for horns in the beginning and then doe at the end. And the first I think it was the first 2 to 3 weeks of doe season, or sorry, of archery season. Every night, like he would have a doe basically run him out at the end. Like he went to one where he was on the ground and he's like, I was sitting there, just sitting there at the end. It was too dark to see. And I just hear footsteps coming at me more and more. I turn on my light and this doe's running right at me and just chasing me away. It's like, I'm like, I don't know what the hell's up with these deer. Like, but
Oh
I
my
love them.
gosh.
I love it to death.
I know.
Now,
It's a
I
love
do
hate.
have I do have one quick question though, in the idea of so you said you're archery guy through and through. Do you still only do compound, or have you really gone down the rabbit hole of recurve bow and longbow and everything like that?
No, that's one thing I haven't gotten into. I'm strictly compound. I have a good friend here down in Texas. He's been on the show before actually a couple times. His name's Jesse Johnson.
Mhm.
That guy, he only hunts Texas public land
Mhm.
and he hunts with traditional archery equipment.
All
And
two
then
acres of it?
no, he goes where other people don't, and he kills more animals than I do, way more animals than I do. He is
Wow.
very successful. He works very hard at it. I watch him and I'm like, man, it is so tempting, but I know as soon as I pick up that recurve, I'm gonna have a whole new habit. And just right now, I'm trying to balance my life and just be like, I don't need a new obsession right now. I got enough
Yeah.
obsessions going on right now, and so I need to handle what I got before I put something else in the pot. But
That's a fair point. It's crazy whenever you're, really focusing on growing that it's like I want to do A, B, and C like in your personal life, but it's like I really have to balance what's good for the business, the organization right now.
right,
But
exactly, man.
that's also half the fun of, building a business, building a brand. You get to go and do those other things that you wouldn't think that you would be doing.
Oh yeah. No, I've said it many times before. It's just like even our brand. I've gotten a lot of these out of state opportunities I've had, and a lot of the relationships I've built and everything. It's stuff that never would have happened without it. So
Yeah.
yeah, very grateful for it for sure. Well, man, I know we're getting close to that hour mark we were shooting for and everything. I got a couple quick questions for you, kind of in closing. Like
Sounds
to pick
good.
the brain of every newcomer on the show. The first one is
Pick
just, and
away.
we might have already talked about it for all I know, but I ask folks, what's your favorite hunting memory to date?
Oh. I'll say my favorite hunting memory to date is I probably have to go with Miss September. That's one of my favorites. The only other one that comes close to that is I did a hog hunt out with Last Shadow. They were absolutely amazing. Me and three of my buddies went out. They took us up in the copter and we had a hell of a time. It's a completely different experience, but those two either, between the pinup girl and my dad having fun versus helicopters and dumping mags, they're pretty close.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Uh, Other question I have is what is on your bucket list? What are some hunts that you want to go on that you haven't gotten to and you would consider
Mhm.
that once in a lifetime opportunity?
Oh yeah, I have two that are really up there. One is a pretty, I guess, easy would be the word in the idea of by comparison is I want a kudu really badly. And I have a feeling I'll be getting one in the next couple of years, especially with trophy edits. We are actually expanding and getting in a couple African safaris to start joining with us.
Awesome.
And actually in April, so next month, we're actually going out to South Africa, my wife and I, and we're going to South Africa, Namibia, maybe Tanzania a bit, and really going around to a few of these safaris and talking with them to really just encourage them to, hey, let's keep working together, let's build together. And with that, I'm worried I'm probably gonna end up coming home with one.
I was gonna say it's gonna be hard to go there on a business trip and to
Oh,
not shoot something.
I'll be honest, that is like the bane of my existence, and the idea of I'm balancing the books. I'm like, yeah, I need to buy plane tickets, hotels, all this stuff, and I'm like, do I leave open a kudu amount? Because the problem is they'll, you'll be there and they'll be like, yeah, that kudu is only like, let's say $1,000, $2,000, which you compare that to any hunt in the States, it's like, oh, that's it. I want it, but then, and it's not a fault of any African safaris. It's then, oh, you have to ship it back. Oh, then there's taxidermy. And it's like, so that's gonna be
Logistics,
also my
yeah.
wife doesn't like seeing animals get hurt, which is always funny in the idea of I find a lot of hunters have that like balance of, you have the hunter who's obviously going out harvesting animals versus their wife who's a huge animal lover, which I love animals. I think there's a lot of room for hunting and conservation together, but just not a lot of people on the outside see it that way.
Yeah.
But so kudu would probably be my one of my number ones, and the other one would be a Marco Polo sheep.
Okay.
Oh, I think sheep hunts are the coolest, and that's just an absolutely beautiful animal.
That would be really cool for sure. You made me think of it when you said sheep hunting, and I was just thinking of the terrain and everything. It reminded me, I was going to ask you, what elevation were you elk hunting at?
Um, I honestly couldn't tell you right now. I don't remember. It was a little higher than we're used to.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what it was.
Okay. I was just curious sometimes because I'm a flatlander down here and I got my butt
Oh,
kicked when I went up to Idaho. So
yeah, Texas is like negative elevation.
well, I'm under 1,000 feet. So
Yeah,
well,
I can see
man.
that being a big issue. Remind me not to go sheep hunting with you anytime soon.
Well, on the bright side, I've gotten my first like the maiden voyage of experiencing strenuous mountain terrain out of the way.
Yeah,
So I have a little bit better idea on how to prepare myself and be ready. Because I thought I'd be good to go. I thought that I was in decent
yeah.
shape and that I'd be fine. And nope, not so much.
It
So
it's amazing how it's so hard to train for altitude. It's just one of those things that if you're not in it, you don't think
oh yeah.
about it. And then, bright side, whenever you get through it, whenever you can prepare yourself, then maybe you can go down to Argentina, get some red stags or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
talk about elevation, South America. Holy crap.
Wow. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. I feel like we could sit here and just chat about hunting all day long, and we'll certainly
Well, if
have
we
to
have to, I guess we will.
say
Next
less.
question. Let's keep going. We're going
Well,
long.
we'll definitely have to have you back on in the near future and chat some more and spur up another episode. But before we hang it up, just circling back real quick to Trophy Edits. Anybody that's listened to the podcast, they're interested in y'all doing some work for them. Tell them how to get in touch and how to go about that.
Oh, yes. So anyone that's interested in trophy, it's the best way is go into our website. And, if you just have some questions or anything like that, our email address is info@trophyedits.com. That's probably the best way. We also have our phone number on the website, which, if I'm being honest, we just changed it. So I'm just going to talk a little slowly as I look it up on my phone because
Filling the time,
every,
filling the
yeah,
time.
I'll say every good business owner, of course, knows their phone number. That would be insane. Oh, I don't see it on there. So yeah, info@trophyheads.com is the best way to get hold of us. Or the new phone number is on the site. So those are the
There you
two
go.
best way of getting a hold of us. reaching out's always free. Sending us the photo, just being like, hey, do you think you can work with this? What would you recommend, or what material you recommend? We always love those questions. And the best part about being in trade shows is we get to talk to them about, what was important to them in that photo.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, yeah, after quartering it out, or after the heat of the moment where I brushed its fur, I accidentally got some blood on my face. Can you edit that off? Versus, oh, me and my family have a tradition where we take the blood and do worm marks or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's just getting that extra of, okay, what's important to you, so we know what to keep and what to get rid of.
Yeah. You got any shows left this year that y'all are going to be at?
We're actually going out to Reno Sportsman Show on March 14th through 16th, I believe. I think those are the dates. So if you're in Reno, come out and see me. And then that's kind of it for our show season, with the beginning of the year. We will most likely be coming back out to Texas for the TTHA shows down in both Fort Worth and San Antonio, I believe, because the whole Texas Trophy Hunter Association has been really good to trophy edits. And so with that, I think they're kind of going to be our home shows. And the idea of that's where we got our first start. That first show that you and I met at, that was our first ever show.
Oh, wow.
And
I think you did
from
tell me that,
there-
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. From there, we've been expanding little by little. We just got done with the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, which was fantastic, and looking to do more.
Awesome, man. Well, for those tuning in, you guys make sure you go check out Trophy Edits at the minimum. Show some support and some love, even if you're not placing an order, on following them on social media and all that kind of stuff. If you're at any of these shows, go say hi. Tell Dylan you heard about him on Fall Obsession Podcast. Tell him you heard about his elk hunt.
Yeah.
All
I was
those
like,
great
yeah.
things.
If anyone goes to our social media at Real Trophy Edits and comments Miss September, I'll make sure to put a 15% off in there.
Oh, there you go.
I'll take 15% off any order with comment Miss September, or email me Miss September. That's fine.
Okay, he's throwing y'all a bone. Take advantage of that. Awesome.
That's all for you, Sam.
I'm gonna be the first one.
Hey, well, I better see that pronghorn. I mean,
Yeah, I got some pictures I need to send you for sure. But, well, man,
Okay,
thank
well,
you. We'll do it again soon.
I'll say thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone at Fall Obsession for recording, getting this out, and for listening.
Absolutely. Happy to do it, man. Thanks y'all for tuning in. Back with y'all again next week. I'll catch you then.